Okay, welcome everybody to the Senior DoD panel for Strategies for Energy Resilience in the Military Service. I am your game show host, Norm Campbell. I work at Siemens, but the stars of the show are sitting to the left of me and to your right. We've got Bob Hughes, Executive Director of the Army's Office of Energy Initiatives, Kirk Phillips, the Director of the Air Force Office of Energy Assurance, and Matt Hopp, who's with he's the Energy Division Director at NAVFAC. So we're going to hear a little bit about what's going on at DoD. But before we get started, we've got some housekeeping stuff. Safety moment, take notice of exits. It's where the green signs are, and if something happens, you're gonna have to run after me because I'll be first out the door. Please silence your phones if you would, just in case. Presentations and audio recordings, so I guess I better stop doing the skits here, are gonna be available in the attendee service center typically a few days after JETC wraps up. So got to give all the folks a little bit of breathing room to make sure that everything's going. To download your PDH record, that's also in the attendee service center. So you'll be able to find those there. We would like to thank our education session sponsors. We've got Alliance Consulting Group, Geo, Cabrera Services, and Neifler Survey. Oh boy, I'm sure I pretty much butchered that. Sorry, folks. Yeah. So the other thing, hopefully you've had a chance to get one of these little wristbands for the opening reception at Universal City Walk. The wristband will get you on and off the bus and get you access to the facilities that are going to be hosting us there. It's in your printouts, if you have it. Please go down to the exhibit hall, to the SAME booth, and one of the good folks there will take your ticket and give you a wristband. Okay. And we will depart around 6 o'clock. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn over the floor to, oh, we skipped your 3.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, well, we're just going straight into it. Bob, the floor is yours.
I took the screen away from me. Shrink that thing down. Hi, I'm Bob Hughes. I'm with the Army and the Office of Energy Initiatives. Here to tell you a little bit about today, so thanks for the invitation. Ensuring our installations can sustain and protect our soldiers, our families, and our operational capacity through any situation remains our top priority. Threats to our installations are more pervasive, diverse, and acute now than ever in history. From nefarious actors encroaching the land around our installations to more frequent and severe weather events, the Army must protect our installations more than just physical threats. We must protect our cyber capabilities, energy infrastructure, and water resources through strategic and thoughtful investment. For the Army of tomorrow to be able to project force around the world, we must invest in resilient installations today. To assess our installations, we have completed installation energy and water plans, and we have started installation climate resilient plans. These two assessments are distinct and valuable tools to inform our installation leaders about short and long-term risks to the operational capacity of installations. You see, we're still focused on resilient, efficiency, and affordability as part of our models in all of those plans. So the Army is prioritizing partnerships and an approach to the resilience, efficiency, and affordability. The threats that require resilience as part of our operationals do not stop at the fence line. So in order to do that, we are working closely with our local communities, our utilities, industries, labs, academia, and other military departments and federal agencies. Partnerships provide innumerable benefits to the Army while providing similar value back to our participants. These relationships enable talents to be shared. They maximize the value of our investments and looking for public-private opportunities and create regional and national resilience awareness and capabilities. So I'm going to get to a couple of these on here. One on the upper left-hand side, a decent grant to the Northern California Power Agency in California. maximized $9 million to help us out with a $27 million upgrade to construct a new electric transmission line and substation. These upgrades supported Sierra Army Depot, reducing energy vulnerabilities and increasing its grid capacity. Another thing you'll see on the slide in a couple different places is what we're calling joint resiliency planning efforts. These are with members of the Edison Electric Institute. The Army has signed its second MOU last year with the Edison Electric Institute, and we go to installations in certain service territories and look both inside and outside the fence line to address some of those things that I was talking about. So we're always very close hold, especially in DOD, about what we're going to look at, what we're going to share for information. But we have found out through these partnering efforts with the utility companies directly, and we go facilitate those. My office helps with that. It helps to bring both the utility company and the community and the installation together to identify opportunities or gaps and vulnerabilities on how to close those. So those have been a very strategic partnership that we've done about 12 of them over the last couple of years in various locations, and they've helped us not only identify opportunities on the installation, but also understanding what risk may be outside the fence that the utility is not going to talk about. So the Army has the OEI, so the Office of Energy Initiatives. We are a very unique office inside the Army. We are there to provide a holistic perspective and can help installations with the capabilities and the assessments to put projects together. Because they may do one of these large deals once, and we're going to hopefully do them 100 times if we can do them everywhere. So our expertise, very centralized, but we're available to the installations in the land holding command. So the largest one for the active is up through MCOM. It never turned that on. No one could hear me? I have to start all over? Outstanding. People in the front row get all the quiz questions. So again, OEI is a very unique office, and that will have that holistic perspective at the headquarters level in the Pentagon. We're an available resource to the land holding command, such as AMC, Army Materiel Command, MCOM, Installation Management Command, and the installations directly to help them put these together. Again, the Joint Resilience Planning will help navigate and facilitate those conversations. And look for the opportunities to close gaps and vulnerabilities and identify those. So we're involved in these 31 different locations here on the map. I'm not going to brief them all to you. Matt knows them far better after we've done this so many times. But I will highlight a couple. So at Los Alamitos in California, it's a guard installation, part of the Cal Guard, very important for DSCA response and things that happen on the West Coast. We partnered with a company called Bright Canyon Energy at the time. It's now Amoresco, but they developed a 26 megawatt solar array, a 20 megawatt battery, some generation and diesel for filling the gaps, but it's very small. And on a day-to-day basis, they sell power to San Diego Gas and Electric on the grid. However, if anything happens, the bad day that we all talk about, when the bad day happens, we can turn it inward. And we have tested that, and it became commercially operational in November of last year. So that's one of our ideal project opportunities we're looking at. It is a microgrid. It's considered a microgrid, but it generates enough power to be able to carry Los Alamitos all day. So we always talk about a minimum of 14 days, but it could theoretically go forever. Let's hopefully the bad day doesn't last forever, right? So a couple that we want to talk about, we've done some previous deals where we provided a lease or an easement to a utility company just for development purposes. And in those cases, they have developed solar primarily. This is back under the Obama administration where our goals were slightly different. But since they've become operational and sell power day to day on a grid, there's a few places where the utility has come back and added a battery and then allowed us to be able to connect through other appropriated investment such as ERSIP. So those are some great opportunities where taking advantage of already existing assets, and then a different one was a completely straight development deal with a lease with a developer out in California there at Los Al. So how do you do it all? I will not read all these to you, mostly because I do not have the slide in front of me. But so how do we finance that? So the private equity development, primarily we're looking for real estate outgrant. So where can we leverage underutilized, non-excess property? So for the lawyer in the room, I chose my words carefully, underutilized, non-excess property, but still has value. And so we either use 2667, 10 U.S.C. 2667, or we do an easement in 2668. We have a tendency to prefer a lease because it requires fair market value in return. And so we're not looking for your money, we're looking for your investments. So we can use that in terms of in-kind consideration. The one for power purchase agreements is like the second one on the left-hand side, 2922A. That allows us to enter into longer-term power purchase agreements. Those are very common in some of these deals. We'll structure a PPA with a lease deal, so they go together. So the single competition counts and satisfies the statutory requirement for both. And then the third-party finance, so the ESPCs, UESCs, where we're looking to leverage other people's investment up front, but we're paying it back over time through the savings. Several other ones there. We have the Milcon Authority that everybody's probably familiar with. ERSIP is a subset in that list. And then there's another one in there that's called, it's 10 U.S.C. 2912. It's a savings program. It allows us to calculate how much did we actually save year over year, keep those funds and reinvest them into certain projects. And in the Army, we call that program reform. If you quiz me on what it stands for, we'll have to read it off the chart. So just with that. And then the right-hand side is mostly grant information. So we're always looking at different opportunities through direct funding, payback funding, like I said, and or the grants that come direct. So I look forward to your questions coming up. And we'll give it over. I think we're going to that guy right there. He doesn't trust me with the clicker, so he's going to the podium.
I like to stand up only because I'm a lot taller in person. So greetings, thank you all for coming here. I am Matt Haupt, I'm the NAFAC Energy Director, working within the SysCom role. We're responsible for not only the technical aspects, but also the execution for the Navy's energy programs. Basically, excuse me, our energy strategic goals here are really the resiliency, the reliability, the efficiency of energy and power to the Navy. But I'm going to add two more: the sustainability, to make sure that whatever is put in can be operated 5, 10, 15 years later, and then also cyber compliance. Obviously, everybody in the room is very familiar with all the dangers that outside actors are posing to the military, specifically Navy cyber systems. So really taking into account all that cyber-related concerns, the hygienes, the patching, all the elements that are associated with your facility-related control systems, your meters. In smart grid, we actually have a smart grid that we look at. In addition, obviously, we're looking at conservation. It goes back to the 1970s when conservation was huge. It was brand new. We're still trying to do that. Energy and water conservation is certainly important and critical to our mission. We really look at this shore infrastructure as the extension of that weapons platform. So if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't put that warfighter in the best position to win and to succeed. And then finally, taking ASN's thought processes a couple of steps on the climate change, the climate goals that are out there, and making sure that we can try to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and while also meeting that mission assurance, making sure that, again, that warfighter always comes down to him or her fighting the war, that they can perform their mission appropriately. So I put this graph up, and hopefully you can see it. This is really a NAVFAC-specific slide, but you can change this to be ASN, CNIC, OpNav, the Marine Corps, and it won't change much. And I call it the energy ecosystems. On the left-hand side, you'll see all the areas that we work in, from PDC, from the NAF, again, this is NAFEC specific, PDC, which is planning, design, construction. A lot of the people in this room, architect, engineers, construction people, this is what you know mostly at the NAFEC. But from the public works side, from the energy side, we obviously have to work with them very closely to ensure that what they're building we can use. CIO, as I already mentioned, cyber compliance, cyber hygiene, cyber security is paramount in anything that we do. So to make sure that we are secure, we have to work with CIO, and then S3, 4, and 5, as you go down the command structure, down to the installation, we're working with those. Why do I go through this? Because we have to not only make sure that the left-hand side is having our attention and making sure that we're following them, but then you go to the right-hand side, and these are all of the outside stakeholders that we are looking at. OSD kind of is the big dog in the room. You know, they take care of the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, the Boy Scouts, everybody that's out there, and they're really responsible for that grand strategic vision. However, working with those guys, and goes down to the next line down, ASN, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and specifically for us, EI&E, Energy Installations Environment, they kind of give us our marching orders. Hey, this is what I want you to do for this year and that year. And then on down the line, I do want to bring up in the Blue Army, Air Force, I talk to these gentlemen pretty much on a weekly basis, see what they're doing, see if I can't hit the easy button. If they've already broken the code on something, I'm going to try to emulate it and hopefully reverse back to us. DOE, the national labs. There's a lot of people, which means that there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of effort that needs to be looked into to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to ensure the success of our Navy mission. And in the middle, that's kind of where I play the biggest part. It's ESPCs, UESCs, all of the financed energy projects that are out there that we can afford to look at. I already brought in FRCS, facility-related control systems, building control systems, and then we get into some appropriated funding, ERSIPs and MILCONs. As Bob indicated, there are many vehicles to get after these, get after the energy solutions that we're looking for. So what are the challenges that we're looking at? Obviously, the world is changing. The world is changing very quickly. We are looking at the electrification of buildings, meaning you're going to take the building off of a natural gas, let's say boiler, and you're going to put it into an electric boiler. That's going to drive consumption up. We're looking at electric vehicles, electric vehicle support equipment. Again, really stressing that infrastructure, that utility infrastructure that we have to ensure that we have enough power out there, again, to facilitate success in our mission. Costs are increasing. I don't think anybody would be surprised to see, inflation is up, the cost of utilities, power, water, sewer, communications, all of that is going up. Goals, as I said, ASN can come out with some fantastic goals. We need to be net zero by 2045. We need to have CFE, carbon-free energy, by 2050. But that doesn't necessarily equate to funding. I was told a long time ago, vision without resources is a hallucination. So without that funding, it becomes very tough to implement some of these items. Great power competition, all you have to do is look outside for Russia, China, North Korea, other non-state actors that are causing hate and discontent around the world, which is just, again, we're being stressed, okay? We have to go to certain Indo-Pacific areas. We have to go to the Europe area, and we have to, be in America to facilitate against that success. Finally, coming down to the Executive Order 14057, which is a long-term for carbon-free energy. Let's try to get America off of burning fuels to make electricity, burning other elements that bring out carbon. So what do we do to look at solutions? Well, I just brought up carbon. Carbon is bad, I'll use the air quotes there, bad. So how do you go and try to facilitate success? We have geothermal. We have the only geothermal working plant, and I like to rib the other guys. The Navy is the only one that has a working geothermal energy producer right now out in China Lake. Has been producing since 2004. So that is one way to look at it. Fuel cells. We have a 7.4 megawatt fuel cell up in New London, Connecticut, working fantastic. We have also a number of solar fields out there. I'll bring up Hawaii. We have 2 main solar fields out there generating approximately 80 megawatts of energy, not only for HECO, Hawaii Electric Company, but also it comes back into Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. So there are initiatives that we are really trying to facilitate in getting into the process while we look at other ways to encourage development and the ability to bring in additional solar, additional wind, hydrogen, some things that may not even be thought of right now, and I call it magic pixie dust. We're trying to find all these elements to get to the solution sets. We look at serial letters. The serial letters from the ASN, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, 1 through 5. 5 is really where my focus is. And it really looks into the carbon-free energy, how we're going to approach those. And it's really focused on the critical infrastructure. Again, mission, always important. Really looking at critical infrastructure so that they have enough power to do their efforts. I love the Marines. I was talking to Scott Holdsworth the other day, and he goes, well, we have just three items: plan, invest, test. Leave it to a Marine to break it down to the most simplest forms. That's great. You plan, you have to plan these things right. And again, it goes back to PDC and how we look at products out there. Invest in those products that are going to bring us the greatest rate of return. And then test. Black starts. That's a great way to really test the utility infrastructure of the system that's just been either upgraded or improved by a microgrid or whatever. The next one, as I said, black starts, and hopefully you guys are sitting there going, Matt, did you not even QC your slide? You have DER twice. The acronym police got after me because one is deep energy retrofits, fixing a building to become more efficient. And the second one is obviously distributed energy resources, your solar, your wind, your hydro, your geothermal systems. IEPSs, I will put up a hand in support of CNIC and NAFAC working collaboratively to get the installation energy program summaries. It's basically an installation level evaluation of where risks are, where your energy security gaps are, and how to close them. We actually use this on a yearly basis to really plan for the next year's evolutions. Bob went over 2912, and I will say ESB is the energy security budget, which comes out of the geothermal program. So we actually get quite a lot of money coming from our geothermal systems, and we distribute it to those installations that need the greatest improvement on their energy security. We're also making tool suites now. We're coming into the 21st century. We're using SharePoint dashboards to really facilitate between ASN, OpNav, CNIC, and NAVFAC energy decisions made on data, not just a guess. Hey, I think that transformer is going to go out in about 3 years. We ought to think about replacing that. But using the actual data from buildings, data from installations, data from regions to figure out how to become more efficient and optimize the energy to those systems. And finally, utilization of all the vehicles that are out there. Bob went over a number of them. I will just add in, we're looking at DIU, which is Defense Innovation Unit. Innovation. I'm all on board for trying to find out where there's a new mousetrap. If there's a better way to do something, I'd love to hear about it. Let's go after it. Let's get it into the RDT&E program and find out how to ensure that we are on the cutting edge of those vehicles out there. Additionally, AFEC grants. DOE just came out with a new AFEC grant thing, and this is how AFEC, I know, stands for Assisting Federal Facilities, and I'm not sure what the rest means, but it's assisting federal facilities. We're going to use that to help us become better. And then finally, we all try to outdo each other with good maps. And I like this map because it really does show the breadth of where the energy, and I say energy, I mean utilities and energy go across the nation for the Navy. And this includes everything from ESPCs, UESCs to EULs, those leases that Bob was talking about. We have a number of those. We certainly love those. PPAs, USCs, and I guess the best one is the IGSA. It's the Intergovernmental Support Agreement. We actually in San Diego get money to plug a ship into the pier side. Get that? I'll say that again. We do this normally. Ship pulls in, plug it into the shore power. We actually, from San Diego, get money for doing that because we're going cold iron. We turn the ship off so we're not emitting pollutants, we're not emitting carbon. So we're actually getting money from that. It's a kind of neat thing to do because we're already doing it anyway. And then finally, this is my last slide. But it really shows where we're stepping out, where we're trying to do on the cutting edge of technology. This shows our microgrids, our battery energy storage systems, and distributed energy generation, which is, again, your solar, your wind, your hydro, your geothermal plants that are out there. And as you can see, we have a lot, but we're increasing those as every day goes by. Again, it's a collaborative effort across the entire Navy spectrum, starting from the top down to the installation. And that's the only way that we can work is collaboratively, not only internal to what we do, but with everybody sitting in this room. You guys are architects, engineers, design professionals, construction elements. We need you guys to be working with us so that we can optimize how we're getting to that energy security and energy success. And with that being said, I believe there's our information. I'll turn it over to my good friend Kirk.
So first of all, for everybody that's standing up, there's actually quite a few seats available. If you would like to sit down, it will not bother me at all for you to move into a seat and get a seat. So as I get started, they removed it. I used to have a link for you guys. There he is. Put it there. So as anybody that wants to sit down, sit down. You're going to want to grab that link if you're interested in working with us. So I'll let you do that real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. That's their survey. They took my link off. Come up and get a card. All right. So real quickly, I think from the Air Force's perspective and from the audience we have, you're either here to listen to the other two guys from their service, or you might want to come over to the Air Force after you heard us. So you may not be my primary audience. I think the primary audience here is you want to do work with the Air Force. And so my intent here is to try to provide you some information so that you know how to do work with us. We've got some numbers on there just to show you that we got a big program that matches everybody. And I also benefit that everything you heard from my counterparts about using all the tools and how we go about business, that all applies. So I'll mainly hit a few of the extra things. We're very metric driven. I present my metrics regularly, and some of the things that we're driving towards here are listed here. We do 7 days versus the 14 days. We're also climate informed, so everything that we do for resilience, but we also are trying to think about how do we meet the climate goals at the same time. What we have found out is that most of our resilience measures really get improved when we have on-base generation, and that's basically renewables. So there's really no incompatibility with the climate aspects. I want to talk a little bit about the net zero, the fleet electrification, and the electric buildings. I'll do that on the next slide. But ultimately, my office has recently combined. We've talked about it for a long time, but it's fully happened at this point. We're a single office, and so I have a very broad program at this point, and I think that's good for you all, because that means you've got one office to work with. You have less risk of starting with us and then something changing down the road. So we identify it. We do all the evaluations. We do the installation energy plans. We identify those gaps. We score the bases. Then we develop the resilient solutions. Those aren't projects. Those are bigger than projects, right? Those are concepts that might have multiple projects in them, multiple concepts in them, working with partners, and those partners might be doing aspects, but ultimately we have a resilient solution that then drives where we want to go, and from that we then, if we have from that projects or agreements like power purchase agreements or agreements like lease agreements, those all come and they align with that resilient solution report, and we deliver that out of the office. I'm also the executive agent for energy assurance as a core capability out of AFCEC, and that means the other offices like CIU that does the leasing, they are actually under that core capability. They answer to basically my policy and my direction. So we also, while they don't directly work for me, and so that also provides, I think, a level of assurance that what we say we're going to do is what we end up doing, and it doesn't change along the way. That reorganization also created two new divisions. One is the Special Projects Division, and the other is the Innovation and Technology Division. So the Innovation and Tech Division works at all TRL levels. So if you've got a product out there that you're wishing that we would use, the Innovation Tech team has the ability to look at that. If it's early TRL, we mainly advise is what matters to us, so you know what you ought to develop. If it's mid TRL, we help see if there's adequate or opportunity for a pilot. But if you're a high TRL, we look at those solution sets as something that we would do a pilot, but not for pilot's sake, but actually a first of its kind in the Air Force, to then do many more. And that's where the Special Projects Division comes in. They actually take those and they actually are able to work those pilots, which are fairly substantial, not necessarily a small pilot, and are able to deliver some new tech into the office. We also do all the rate negotiations, and the law centers it works co-located with us, so we also handle all of your suits when you guys sue me. So all together in one large office. We also recently have also had it in what's called the Installation Resilience Cell. So all the goals for electrification, net zero, and electric vehicles are now inside that resilience cell, which is inside of my office from an AFCEC perspective. And so that means as we think about solution sets, we're really adding that in as part of the solution sets that we want to do under energy resilience. So I'll give you a quick example. Under electrification, a lot of people are talking about how much it's going to increase the electric demand and that there's going to be challenges to resilience. I agree with those, but I don't agree that it has to be that way. It will be that way in some instances. But I'm also very interested in thinking outside the box. So we are looking at things like only moving heat once, and then providing that movement of heat through renewables. So for instance, we could have centralized heat plants where we have HVAC centrally, and that heat that gets pulled out of buildings to cool them gets sequestered, and then when we need that heat back again, all we do is pump it back out of the ground, back to the facilities, and we can run those plants with renewable energy, solar fields, for instance. Also, we can have tanks that then provide a thermal storage, both heat and cold. And if you can imagine, a plant like that is incredibly resilient. We went and looked at a similar plant that was at Princeton University, where Princeton is moving their entire facilities onto a plant like this. And their power bills went down so much that the electric company came out to figure out what was wrong with their meters. So as they were going onto these systems, they're actually reducing their total energy load up on power. They also are able to experience resilience, and so this is what we want to do as well. During the hurricane, what they ended up doing is when they lost power to the college, those tanks of heating and cooling were able to provide essential heating and cooling for their facilities during the power outage, and they're able to turn the solar that normally runs the plant to run their critical functions of the college from that solar instead of running it to produce some, more hot and cold water. So I think those kinds of large solutions are going to be some of the things that we're going to be adding into our portfolio. I'd also like to tell you that we have a OTA offering that's going to be coming out very soon, and it's what we hope to be is the way of the future. We're going to be able to do it once, and then we're going to ask for some congressional relief. But here's what it's going to be. It's going to be, we're calling it Finance First. I've talked about it before, but I'm going to give you a little bit more detail today. Under Finance First, you or the vendor will conceive. That's very important. That's the thing that's never been done before. You're going to conceive of the solution. I'm not going to tell you the solution. You're going to do it yourself. Then you're going to develop, design, construct, operate, build, sustain, maintain, and then eliminate or remove once the term of the contract is up, a solution set. And you're going to win that contract by receiving from me the resilience scores and what is causing the resilience at that installation to go down for its critical facilities. And the winner of the offering will meet the minimum increased resilience scores that we will identify, but we will also give stretch goals to those facilities, those mission sets on that installation that we want even more resilience on than the minimum score. And so the company or financier that identifies the method to be able to give us the best possible score, the overall total solution, will be the one that wins. And the reason why it's all the way from conceive to ultimately eliminate at the end is because that gets the government out of the way as much as possible. What we will do is we will facilitate any land, we will facilitate any environmental work that needs to be done, but ultimately you'll be able to choose who you do the construction work with, who you do the operating with, who you use to design the project, and you won't have to worry about the government's slowness or inefficiencies, or frankly where we don't have expertise and we're making recommendations that you're hitting your head on the table. I came from a structural engineering firm, and I can tell you that I was bidding a project for the Pentagon, and every time I turned around, they were going to get a worse product because of the comments and what they were asking for. And I know what it means to be in business and realize that the government's working against itself. So we hope that Finance First really changes that. The big thing that we'll have to do for relief is that you will be able to use any of those authorities, but all of those authorities currently say you pick the authority and then you do the work. And what we're saying is we will contract and you can pick out of that pick list of all the authorities. So to do that again, we will have to have Congress allow us to have a new thing that says, hey, you can ask for the work and then you can pick the authority after the fact. So to give you an idea of what's actually out there, what the team's working on, I believe the count on this is about 74 active actions that we have right now. But if you kind of want to see about what kinds of things that we are currently working on, you can see it here. Quite a bit of solar, some renewables. A lot of this has renewables, but they would be renewable only floating solar, geothermal, et cetera. So I'll hold this up just a little bit so that whatever industry you're in, area you're in, you can see your parts and kind of get a good idea. We are very interested in working with others and, of course, using other people's money. But I also, under the global power competition, I've asked for a significant budgetary increase in order to marry up the things that we are already able to do with some sort of completer dollars in order to do everything that we want to do. So call your congressmen and your senators and see if we can't get that done. Give you an idea of some of the kinds of projects that we're working on. The solar there, that solar provides its power out to the city all the time, but under a bad day, it has a battery, and the battery and the solar field is able to run aft north, it's 3 primary buildings continually without interruption indefinitely. You know, the microreactor, we're the pathfinder for America on that. Once Eielson is complete, everybody else in America will be able to start doing their programs. It's under a protest, which, you know, we'll let the Justice Department finish that. Somebody has to be the winner, so there's only a few companies out there to be able to do that. So somebody will end up being the final selectee, and we'll be able to move forward. At present, we're still intending to have that in place by 2027. Our geothermal power is really designed to do geothermal, where geothermal is hard, because that's our #1 technology, nuclear being our second. We want to do geothermal everywhere that we possibly can. So we have an enhanced and advanced geothermal. We actually have right now 4 separate geothermals. This F.E. Warren's traditional. It'll be the first one in DOD that actually does anything for resilience versus just produce power for the grid. And
Yeah, if it works.
Yeah, we all have something that we've done first, so I won't do the I'm first game. But the other ones are in places that you would not normally think of as geothermal: Houston, San Antonio, and maybe more likely Mountain Home, Idaho. But those locations are just ones that we're testing these technologies. We're helping companies deliver those technologies so that we can do those at other locations. And then we've got a few where we're really rethinking what we've done in the past, where we're doing renewables with good BESS systems that allow us to not preemptively go onto generators. That particular one there at Shimia, their main mission is radars, and they run off of a power that's run by jet fuel, and it's not very smooth power, and literally I'm hurting that mission. I'm actually providing power that's damaging the circuits, causing them to have to repair that radar. And so we're going to be putting in a BESS and a wind turbine in there so that they get smooth power and they also get reliable power, and I stop hurting the mission. So I say somebody else put the systems in, but we'll do better. So with that, my presentation's over, and I believe we have some time left to do questions and answers.
Thanks, Kirk. Okay, thank you all for some very timely and detailed information. So we have almost 20 minutes for questions, 19 minutes. If you do have a question, please go up to the microphone so that everybody can hear, and it'll also be caught on the recording. So, first up, Mr. Klein.
Sit in the front row just for this. I'll turn the mic on this time.
You'll turn the mic, yeah. Thank you guys for the presentation. Really have accomplished a lot in the last administration. What accomplishment are you most proud of? And then what is your focus area for the next year?
The LoSal project, it took 10 years to get done, but we figured it out and got it done. I mean, that's honestly it. It's our model. I mean, it's not of a significant scale. And maybe some don't think 26 megawatts is, but it covers the entire installation. You know, that's the model that we're trying to get to. And believe it or not, I got there and I was like, how old is this thing? So we figured that out. So
I would say probably the close 1 and 2 would be the geothermal system that I was talking about in China Lake. That's still continuing, and we have now actually expanded that out to 3 other areas. NAS Fallon, El Centro, and Corpus Christi. So we're looking at, as Kirk said, where there's geothermal activity, we're trying to exploit that action and either bring the power back onto base or again sell it through a PPA so that we can get funds off of that. And then I would say also the fuel cell that we developed into New London, Connecticut, using hydrogen, zero emissions. You get water out the back end while we're providing pier side energy utilities out there. So 2 really cutting edge areas that we're getting both the mission done while also trying to accomplish some of the goals that ASN is doing.
So rather than pick one of our projects, because I think every single one they're all bespoke because they're meeting specific solution sets, and I think they each have really interesting components. I'm proudest of my team. We had reorganization this year. We're in a growth mode, and when you do that, it's really important to keep culture, and I think the team's done a great job of keeping the culture, and what that culture is very collaborative, very easy to work with, and very friendly, and very excited about the work that they do. So we've just been authorized to double the size of our civilian staff, and we nearly doubled the size of our contract staff already this year. And we're working on putting those positions on the books and getting them hired. So we have a lot of things in the planning stage, and we're being resourced in order to bring those to the finish line. And so I think all of that personnel action and the way people work is what I'm most excited about.
This is my boss.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for the presentation. I'm Mike Keller. I'm the Acting Director of Public Works for NAVFAC. 2 questions. One for the Air Force is if you can discuss what you think the viability of the advanced geothermal is, and then a follow-on for the Air Force and the Army. I already know what Matt thinks. What do you guys see? What do you guys see as the future of nuclear power at the installation level? And I'm not necessarily getting tied to the whole SMR discussion or the Pele discussion, but just kind of maybe expanding off of them. Thank you.
I'll start.
That's right.
You got 2, go
one
ahead.
Army.
Okay. So I think advanced or enhanced, depending on what it is, subsurface, both have their own sort of risks. What I know is that I don't really deliver resilience until I cut that distribution line. So we're working to deliver the solution sets to show that they work, and they work at commercial scale. And then once they do that, we can then use them for resilience. If it doesn't work, we are able to go to other solutions. And it's not going to work everywhere, but we need it to work at our installation. So wait and see. Our stepwise we went to DIU first. I think this is one of the things for my team that are around. We conceived of advanced enhanced geothermal in the way that it's being delivered now in DoD. We went to DIU as a contracting agent, and we opened that up to all the services. This was the Air Force's strong strategic direction. So your answer of what do I think the risk is, I think the risk is sufficient to put my resources towards it. And I really hope that we're able to deliver something that hasn't been done before. In terms of nuclear and not necessarily on SMR, we've recently entered into agreement in San Antonio, and I've got 5 other locations that I can't state yet, where we're going to enter into agreements with the utilities or the state in order to say we at the Air Force would like to host the regulated utilities nuclear power on our installation, and only use that and have it a ratepayer asset, and then use that power as a first right of power when we need it for resilience. So this will allow you to go to scale, because you put in a SMR that's 10 megawatts or you put in 150 megawatts, the cost is nearly the same. It's not much different. And so you get a lot of benefit from the scale. It also is expensive power generally, although it is getting cheaper. But if it's a ratepayer power, then under the rules of not paying more for our power, it becomes doable for us to have that as a resilient source. And nuclear powers are number 2 technology.
Hello, Jonathan Coburn. I head up the asset management practice.
He wanted to hear, his boss wanted to hear from the Army, so I don't want to get him in trouble. That's all right. Well, so we also did 2 geothermal pilot projects. We have one at Fort Wainwright in Alaska, and we have one at Fort Irwin in California. And we're actually doing drilling exploration to see if it's going to work. It was part of the same DIU, the area of interest statement, since using the OTA, the Other Transactional Authority. So they're drilling this summer. And if they don't drill this summer at Wainwright, they better hurry up, because it'll be waiting another year. So we do have that going on to see if enhanced geothermal is going to be able to produce power, but we think we'll have enough heat differentials to be able to do something even in Alaska, whether or not it can be enhanced or not. The other one is SMRs. So I can't get too far out in front, but the Secretary of the Army has approved doing 2 pilots inside the Army, so it'll be coming out soon for installation, hosting it, and looking at various pathways to do it. Right now, I think we're going to do a DIU announcement to see if we can find if one of these will do it. The primary discussions are if we want to do an Army-owned one, which I vote against, or a company-owned one similar to a COCO. So there's plenty of discussions with utility companies, as I'm sure everybody could assume, of where they want to put them, but we want to start the pilots first so we can control that going forward. All right, now back to the new question.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Jonathan Coburn, I head up the asset management practice for KBR. This is all really, really impressive. Is there a plan, or is it too far in the weeds? I know all the services spend a lot of capital that isn't related to energy. There's got to be some overlap there. If you're upgrading your infrastructure to get some energy benefit from it, is that being looked at, or is that a minor part of the plan?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Great question. And really, I don't differentiate between utilities and energy. We have to work together hand in hand. If I can't transmit the electrons that we're generating, why are we doing it? So your first part of the question, I really see utilities identifying where they have some needs, and potentially the energy side of where we can facilitate the crossover between that. If we get added benefits of, let's say, improved infrastructure because of an ESPC or a UESC, those are all part of it. But I go back to, it's a collaborative approach. I really can't make a distinction between the two, because one has to work with the other. So I don't know if that answered your question, but what I heard was, how do you look at the utilities and the difference between utilities and energy? I really don't. Now, we do have separate, distinct divisions, utility division and the energy division, but we work almost hand in hand every day. I'll pass it to my colleagues here if they add anything else.
I didn't want to add anything else.
Oh, okay.
Like Kirk had some.
If part of what your question also is through all the other dollars that we spend in construction as we look at electrification and net zero, part of the new cell in the Air Force for installation resilience is going to try to capitalize on electric vehicles to make sure that we don't degrade our resilience, but we actually can enhance it. We actually have 2 of our electric vehicle projects that are actually siting level 3 chargers with generation and storage, all as part of the electric vehicle charging, but it's next to critical facilities so that those actually can add resilience to those critical facilities while delivering electric vehicle charging. So, we are using whatever dollars we are spending to think holistically.
Good afternoon. Bong Lee from NAVFAC Southwest. This question is for Air Force. Earlier you mentioned you have an OTA for from cradle to grave, from conceptual design to maintenance. How does that conflict with those bases that already have privatized utilities?
So the NDAA actually has a provision that allows us to sole source to a privatized utility this year in 2024. My lawyers are looking to see exactly how much relief that gives us, but without that relief, it was a challenge, because if they try to conceive it but they didn't have an ability to win it, would be a problem, right? And because they could basically stop all other actions. So I believe that relief is going to allow the privatized utilities for us to maybe go to them specifically and ask them if they'd like to do that. And if they don't, we have to work with those bases separately. The vast majority of our bases are not privatized. I will just jump into privatized utilities a little bit because of the question and say that privatized utilities in the past have tried to deliver 99.99% reliability and no additional storage. For the Air Force, for power, all of our future privatized utilities contracts are going to also require them meet the requirements for our critical facilities at those critical facility levels with storage. And so privatized going in the future will not be what we think of it today, but will be something more.
And I'll add, go Navy, beat Army, and Air Force.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Zachary Payne, Matrix Design Group. One question I had as you're thinking about these prototypes and scaling, and it makes me think about the CIBR program. How much are you guys working with AFWorks and others in terms of leveraging CIBR funds to scale some of this and create opportunities?
Yeah, I can do it like this, Zach. It's not very much for us.
So our innovation division actually works with all of the other innovation work. So we actually reviewed all of AFWorks offerings this year, I think 980 that had some energy components. We identified the ones that we felt had the greatest benefit to our type of program, and then I let them know that so that those could move forward. We are doing a geothermal AFWorks where we're using $2 million from AFWorks and matching funds from the company, and that's our Houston geothermal project, so that's one of the AFWorks ones. We also meet quarterly with ARPA-E, and we have a new working group in the Air Force called the Innovations Working Group, which my office co-chairs with the Air Force Research Lab, and they together are bringing together the national labs and all the other labs, Searle, in order to look at innovation overall and try to bring it all together so that we can actually bring innovative solutions quickly to bear.
Yeah. I'm between them. We're doing a little bit more than zero, but we're doing less than the Air Force.
With AFWorks.
With AFWorks, yes. But I do know that our RD&T side of the house, which is XWIC, is working with AFWorks. I know that there's collaboration there. We're trying to get into all of the areas that Kirk was mentioning, geothermal, potentially nuclear, all of the elements that are on the bleeding edge of technology, but we're certainly not at the level that Kirk is.
So he wants more than AFWorks. So Erdic Searle is doing it. We have a flow battery pilot going in at Fort Carson, and it's with Lockheed. So if you're in the room, it's good. We're looking forward to turning that on this summer and then being able to see how that performs. But Erdic Searle is the organization that does a lot of our, tech transfer type of stuff.
Okay, guys, I'm going to ask the question that might kill this thing off. A lot of complex systems, right? How's the IT world helping you to keep cybersecurity from killing the programs and the projects?
IT?
Wow.
IT's not good. Why is that a setup? They're just making sure we don't go too fast. That's all. They're just making sure we take our time and do it right.
Yeah, we work collaboratively with them. The Air Force is on a path to create basically enclaves at our bases so that our control systems can operate within their enclave and not have the risk. And most importantly, so that they can interact with the market, because many of our solutions really rely on being able to know the market rates at very short periods of time. I think our greater challenge, and we're behind the other services on this, is advanced metering. So we need to do better in advanced metering, but overall, it makes us, it's included, it makes us go slower, like Bob said.
Say that word again. Slower.
but slower in a deliberate way, not slower in a bad way.
And I'll say that if you looked on my slide, I had CIO right there. It was, we work collaboratively with them. They're not the enemy. I'll leave it at that. We actually have CSP, cybersecurity platform enclaves, around many of our bases. We actually are using that to really facilitate the smart grid, which is data transfer and data analytics, to understand how we can optimize energy, utilities, again, power, water, and sewer through the advanced metering initiatives. And we actually have a really good working relationship with CIO. It tends to be hey, you can't do this. It's like, okay, find me a way to do something. The pace of technology is changing so fast, it's hard to keep up. You guys know when you buy a computer now, as soon as you open the box, it's obsolete. Figure out 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old systems on the Navy bases and the Navy and Marine Corps bases that we're trying to make sure are up to speed. And really where I see CIO helping us even more is connecting those legacy systems with the high-speed, low-drag stuff that's coming out, from, let's say, Johnson Controls or Train or any of the other manufacturers that are out there, making sure that they can talk back and forth without impacting that mission. That's where CIO really has come to our solution set to make sure that we are talking to them. It is slower, but it's a deliberate slowness to make sure that those cyber compliance wickets are met.
Hi there, my name's Rebecca JETC. I'm with an Italian AE. I was wondering, thanks. You guys are great, so please give you a round of applause. Please.
Thank you. Pretty good.
You guys are great. Kudos. I was wondering if there are specific challenges to the European DoD theater, both standards-wise, as far as programming, future projects-wise, as far as implementing and investing in those projects, specific to the European DoD theater, so from all of you.
So we hosted country-specific working groups. We've had 2 in Italy, 1 in Germany, and next week I'll be in the UK, specifically because of the challenges. For instance, in Italy, we're not allowed to sell any of the power produced.
Exactly.
Because that would put us in the economy. Those meetings invited ESCOs to participate so that we would be able to, as well as the host nation's military and the State Department. So we'd be able to work through a lot of those issues. Because of that, at Aviano, we actually have a microgrid project that's now into planning and design and it's getting ERSTIP dollars in order to deliver some results there.
Great.
So we, absolutely, but we're committed to getting past those hurdles.
Awesome, thanks.
And collaboratively, he was kind enough to invite us, and I think you guys went too from the Army. I didn't go, but my guys did. So we all were part of that, very interested in making sure that not only in CONUS, but
Right,
CONUS
exactly.
efforts are being evaluated. So we do attend these on a joint basis and kind of come up with an overall solution set.
Awesome, thanks. Army
Yeah,
Wise?
the Army was there just because they didn't let me travel over there.
Okay.
But yes, we participated in those events that the Air Force hosted over there and stuff. But I think your list actually hits all of the challenges. So, I mean, that was a very good list and a summary of challenges.
Yes.
There's one more to include our escalation rates with our ESCOs and how we're going to be able to do that. So,
Sure.
we already know that because that was a trick question last week. But yes, great summary, and thanks for leading the applause because
Thank you. Thank you for the input and feedback. Looking forward to some awesome energy projects over in Europe as well. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, everybody. We're sadly out of time. However, I'm sure the gentleman will take a few questions between now and the next session. If you would please remember to fill out the questionnaire about the session. And again, remember to go get your wrist bracelets if you're going to join us at Universal Citywide tonight. Thanks again. Appreciate it.